Okay, you're recording. Hello. Good morning. So we are recording from, they're doing maintenance on the internet where we are at today. So we are doing Zoom from the phone, which we do not normally do. So I'm just going to ask that if you are having any issues with hearing me or seeing something that I'm doing, please let me know. Either unmute yourself or drop something in the comments so that I know. We just found out yesterday that they were going to be doing maintenance on the internet lines where we're at. Okay, so today is the last day that we are doing the live Zoom. So let's start with that really quick. It's been a whirlwind for the last 8 weeks. If you're new with us today, I just want to let you know that if you go find me on YouTube, a lot of the past trainings are available for free on YouTube. We're going back and slowly editing the titles with the date that they were recorded so that it is easier to watch them in sequential order. I do this every time. I'm going to mute that, or my email is going to bing us to death while we're on this. Okay. So that you can watch them in sequential order. Those will stay there. They will stay there for, I don't know, ever. It's a free resource for you. We touch on a lot of subjects. This next week, if you are, so since you're in this class or if you watched any of our Zooms live or registered and subscribed to us on YouTube, this next week you'll be getting an email talking about the first processor training that we're going to be offering in the next week, trying to train and grow the broker community and processors, which is just such a big need. So that's kind of my announcement for today. This session, we're going to be right at an hour. Wednesdays are when I would record the LOA, or advanced processor type trainings. Those are all in a playlist on YouTube. And then there's another playlist that's for processors. And we really start very high level, and then we bring the plane down. So this week, I want to dive into something that I posted on the Brokers Are Better. I want to explain how to work in environments where you have long turn times and the things that you can be doing. And then I also want to talk about resources and tools for you as LOs, LOAs, and advanced processors that help make this current climate, one that we expect to be in for the remainder of the year of high volume, a little bit more, either whether that's organized, structured, or what have you. Okay, so first and foremost, I posted in Brokers Are Better earlier this week about how to combat long turn times. And so I want to dive into that. I'm going to use one of the, oh shoot, I didn't bring my blank. I didn't bring my blank whiteboard in here. I'm in a different room today. So I'm going to use some paper. Please hold. Okay, to illustrate these concepts and better help you guys and things that we've implemented in our company and things that I've learned over my time in broker. So for those of you that don't know, or if you haven't watched any of my previous videos, I have a background in corporate training, and then I did have a smaller processing company, and then got my license and pretty slowly transitioned to becoming into a loan officer, and then eventually opening my own brokerage. So I've run the gamut from the bottom to the top. I also started in retail, so I completely understand that experience. And so those people transitioning from retail to broker, or those coming in new, those are all things that I understand. Okay, so when you have a lender that has a long turn time, okay, so I know that not all loans fit at one of our favorite partners, UWM. Not all loans fit there, pricing wise, structure wise, credit score wise, for whatever reason they don't fit there. And so there are few lenders that perform at that level of service with you know, short turn times. And, you know, we get really spoiled with UWM because, you know, if they go above 2-day turn times, everybody's like, oh my God, it's more than 2 days. And so like I remember a few years back, their initial underwriting turn time on an FHA was like 4 days or something. I don't remember why. I was doing my dad's loan. That's the only reason why I really remember why. But it was just like, I mean, people were like, didn't know what to do. It was like the apocalypse. So, but for those of us that work with a lot of other lenders, which is, you know, the optionality we have in the broker environment, sometimes you have to have a certain price to make a deal work. I totally get that. I totally get that. And sometimes people make the choice to wait in order to get that price and not pay the premium for working and getting a loan closed sooner. So please know that while I'm doing this, I understand all of those because I also originate, I also own a brokerage. And so these are conversations we have all the time. But so we have a lot of files that are also at lenders that have long turn times, 7, 8, 10 days. So here's how we manage those long turn times. Okay. So let me just put this here. So if you've been with me before, you know that I have basically like 5 pillars of flow process. So you have application, registration, submission, underwriting, and closing. And really those are the main functions. How you move through that process or the steps you take are very individualized, right? So how you move through that flow is unique to each person in here. If you asked 5 brokers how they move through that process, you're going to get 5 different answers. Okay. So some of these things, my goal and my intention in these trainings are to teach you how to do the tasks, not necessarily to teach you how, in what order to do them in, because you're not going to work for me. And so you're going to have to acclimate to the process that works for you, the system that works for you, or the system that's required by your brokerage. So my intention is solely to teach you how to move, how to perform the tasks within the process. And hopefully what you can do is either create a system for yourself or adjust your system. Okay. Adjust your system. By knowing how to do these certain tasks. Okay, so after registration and then submission, okay? So you've already done application or somebody's already done application, okay? It's probably gonna be backwards for you guys, but you have the application, then registration, then submission, okay? And then we're talking about the next, okay, the next phase is underwriting, okay, and then underwriting. Okay, if you've watched any of my YouTube videos, or been in my trainings, this is the same, and then one more line down is closing. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So what I'm talking about is once you submit the file here, and this is a wait period. Okay, and so I've talked a lot in videos like, what do you do in this period? So what I'm saying to you guys right now is, I was talking to someone about this the other day, and I was like, you know, it's like, when you're going to, okay, so some of these examples are lame because it's COVID and these things aren't really happening right now. But okay, so for example, what I'm going to teach you is like when you go to Black Friday and you drop somebody off at Best Buy so they can be like the 3rd person in line, and then you go and park the car, or maybe you go and get Starbucks and hot stuff, right? And then you join that person in line. Like, you know, as long as somebody's in line, everybody else can go do what they want, and then they come back in line, right? The other time we used to do that was like when we were waiting in line for movies. So we'd drop somebody off at the front door, they'd go get in line for movies, we'd go park the car, and then everybody else would come, or like that one person would buy our tickets and then we'd all go inside together, right? That's the concept that we're using right now, okay, to wait in line. It's no different. Think about anything that you've had to wait in line to buy, right? And so you want to have a placeholder. Sometimes we make our kids stand in line while we go grab that one thing, right? And then we come back in line. So that's the concept that I'm teaching you right now. And I commented on this and I think it confused some people, and so I wanted to dive into it. Okay, so how do you get your place in line? Okay, so I'm going to talk about our loans specifically. I'm going to talk to you about how we do this specifically. I'm going to name the lender. This is not a shot on the lender. I love this lender. I use them. I think they're great, and I'm willing to wait for their turn time. Okay, so I'm just going to talk to you about how we do it. Okay, so we had 3 refinance, rate and term with appraisal waivers. This particular lender, which is Plaza, has posted a 7 to 8 initial underwriting turn time for rate and term refinances with appraisal waivers. Okay, so what we do is we register the file, we get the product selected, we send disclosures. At the time that we send disclosures, we upload the bare minimum in documents to get the file in line for underwriting. Okay, so that's going to be income, assets, it's going to be the signed disclosures, ID, okay, a mortgage statement. If you're doing a refi, you probably should have a mortgage statement in the file. It's not a minimum required, but income, assets, DU or LP, so AUS, and the initial disclosures. Okay, then we put it in line. Okay, so dropping Susie off to wait in line for tickets. Okay, then what we're going to do is we're going to go and get the rest of the documents for the file that we know we're going to need. We have 7 days before that file is touched. So we're going to put income and assets in line with our AUS findings, our initial disclosures, our submission sheet. And then we're going to, in the next 7 days, we're going to add title work, we're going to add insurance, we're going to add letters of explanation, we're going to add the payoff, we're going to add a VOE. If you're using anything other than base salary income, get a VOE. We're going to add, and I had a short list. So if you're self-employed, whatever third-party verification, so like in Colorado, we can go to the small business website and we can do a search, and every year, every company has to re-register their company, so it would show that they're in good standing. You can pull their articles of incorporation, you can do their website, right? So all these other supporting documents. We want to get that all that into that file before it's touched for the first underwrite. So we're going to put in the bare minimum to get in line, to start that 7-day turn time wait. And then we're going to add all of these other documents that we know we're going to need. Now listen, if you are not sure, or if your current system is get it in and then deal with the underwriting, okay, you're going to have to readjust. You're going to have to readjust your process a little bit to get through these turn times, okay? So you may have to say to yourself, I go through and I submit all my files and get in line, and then maybe your thought process, I do a junior underwrite, okay? So a junior underwrite is going to be like, maybe you pull out, so here's what we do. I'm not even going to talk about maybe. We have a submission checklist from Land Home Financial that is it's their 21-day guaranteed purchase close. They will guarantee that they will close your purchase in 21 days. I don't know if they're doing this right now, but this is what they were doing. They will guarantee your purchase to close in 21 days, but you have to use this checklist and you have to submit all of the items on the checklist in order to guarantee the 21 days. So you might hold a submission for a day or two to make sure that all of the items are in the file. But what we do, right, is we submit with the bare minimum, and then we do have a checklist. And so we submit everything and get it in line, and then we go back through as if it had been underwritten, and we use the 21-day checklist to start adding the other documents to the file so that we can, so yes, I mean, we are closing loans in like 30 days, but they're 2 touches, or they're 2 touch and a minor upload on something. Okay, so that is what I'm talking about. And that is how you combat long turn times. I addressed this probably 3 or 4 weeks ago in one of my trainings before these turn times got really long. I think it's because I saw that this is where it was going, and I've been around long enough, like I can see when things are going. But I also listen to people like Anthony Casa and Matt Ishbia and Barry Habib and Logan. I really need to get more confident in saying his last name, Motashami. Sorry, Logan, if I didn't say it right again. And what they're saying is happening or going to happen. And so we have to, like adjust a little bit what we're doing in order to continue being successful in this space, because I can tell you myself, I'm going from getting 2 to 3 leads a week to getting 2 to 3 to 4 leads a day. And so we've also had to kind of restructure our workflow and restructure some responsibilities of the people that we've hired recently. And we're also talking about like, hey, we probably need to look at hiring somebody now so we can train them for the next 60 days. And that's going to help us get through the year. Okay, so really quick, are there any questions on what I just talked about? I'm sorry I didn't have my whiteboard. especially on our last day. Okay, so if that doesn't make sense, or if you're not sure what that list looks like, 2 resources, you can go and find my post on Brokers Are Better, also in the processor group. Let me see if I can pull up what Mortgage Processors United. Okay, so I posted that list in there of additional documents. Once you submit your bare minimum, what you should go back and put in the file in the next 7 days or 4 days. So basically, if you have a lender that has initial turn times longer than 4 days, you need to do a 2-part upload. The other place that you can, there's 2 other places. Any submission checklist from any lender is going to have a checklist of documents that they want submitted. But the other place that you can look is go look at your prior approvals. What are the documents on your prior approvals? Okay, go look on that. In the video I did last week, which I think has either already posted today or is posting, it was buffering. We made a bunch of edits, and so it was just taking longer to buffer on YouTube. I talk about how you can find the information for the letter of explanation for names, for social, and for addresses. And I would say simplify this for yourself by creating a spreadsheet or a template. These are also resources that we'll be putting on the Mortgage Calculator Facebook page, which is where we're going to be doing ongoing training moving forward and providing you guys all the resources that you could possibly need or want to continue moving forward in a full pipeline capacity. Okay, so just trying to see. Okay, the other thing that we were going to, so the other thing that I want you to think about when you're looking at what do I need to add to that is know what items you need to have reviewed and completed in order to issue a CD, okay? So you want to have all of the items that you need in order for a CD to be issued to be in that file. Now, there are some basic per trade bullet points, but I do know that some lenders require additional data. So for example, in UWM, if your mortgagee clause isn't necessarily correct and you need a revision for spelling or a loan number or something like that, but the tax cert and the fees have been provided, you will be cleared on the tax or on the title condition or the tax condition to send out the CD. But at a different lender, they may say, we have the value, but the CPL is wrong or the commitment is wrong, we need a revision, and they will not clear you to submit or to send out a CD until those conditions are fully cleared. Okay, so as a loan officer or a loan officer assistant or advanced processor, it really becomes your job to know what does this specific lender require for me to get a CD out. Okay, and that's going to be your primary focus. Minimum docs, what do I need to get a final approval, and what do I need in the file to issue a CD? That's how we evaluate our loans. Okay, that's how my team, that's how I'm training my staff. What do we need for a CD? And then we have the basic list: title, insurance, BOE, LOEs, and then assets if the file needs assets based on how it was underwritten. Okay. Okay. So we have about 30 minutes. Okay. Outside of that, as an LO or an LOA or a processor, hold on, let me see. Somebody just sent me a message. How do you, okay. So I got a private question about how do you keep track of this stuff. So we recently, so we were small enough, we're a small family shop. I don't have any desire to be like a $300 million shop. I don't have any desire to be like a 300 unit shop. We're a small family brokerage. I would consider ourselves like a boutique family brokerage. So up until this last month, we were able to keep like our pipeline and stuff on a whiteboard. We had a really big whiteboard, like it took up our whole wall. But we do have, I brought my son back on. He was a processor for me for about a year and a half ago. He relocated out of state. and then came back. Well, sort of came back. He came back to Colorado, but we had since temporarily relocated to Albuquerque. So now that our team is working remote, we're not always in the same space or in the same office. We use a spreadsheet that we put in the OneDrive to monitor our pipeline. We've only been using it about 30 days, and we're not sure yet if that's the way we're going to continue to go, because we also had been looking at Trello, and it didn't seem to work for what we wanted it to. But then I had a call with somebody else who's using Trello, and they use it in an entirely new way, which got me really excited because I think the way that they use it is much better. So we may be pushing over to Trello, but we now use some sort of digital tracking for our pipeline. I oversee it. I am not in it adding data other than adding clients as leads in the spreadsheet, and then putting reminders and to do things in there for myself as an originator to follow up with clients. Okay, so that's how we do it. We've talked about this before, so it might be worth going back to some other videos, but also in the Facebook page, the mortgage calculator, we're going to be putting, so I'm going to go through, well, I have about 5 downloaded from other brokers. But I also am going to take the time to go through the other websites and download some more, because lots of people have shared their pipeline software, spreadsheet, whatever they're using. And I just want to share that with you because you need to find something that works for you. We edited the one that we have a little bit too, just to customize it for what we do. Okay. The last thing, I'm going to spend about 15, maybe 20 minutes on this, and then I'm going to open up for questions. So LOA, advanced processor. I have been getting this question a lot about contact with borrowers. So I kind of quasi don't answer this question, because how people set up their business is their business. And what I do may not be how somebody else is set up, might not be how somebody else is set up. So it's my opinion. And basically, I believe the licensing structure falls under whether or not you handle non-public information. Okay, so if you handle non-public information, you either have to have a license or be operating underneath a license, which means you can't be 1099. Okay, so that to me dictates when or how somebody is allowed to speak to my clients in my company. Okay, so my processors have permission to reach out via email if they need something specific. The most common thing that comes up is something about insurance that we don't know the answer to, or like, for example, on a purchase, and they're going through all the checklists, and sometimes the agent will reach out to us and be like, hey, do you know what materials in the floors? Well, we haven't seen an appraisal report, so we don't. So we bring the borrower on the email and say, hey, your insurance agent is asking some questions about the property. We're linking you in so you can help answer these questions. We're not familiar with, we don't know what the flooring is in the property, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so just an example. But my processors don't call the borrowers, okay? They send an email to me with what I need from the borrower based on the approval. And then they work on all the back end stuff that is not borrower specific, VOEs, title revisions. I mean, the list goes on and on. We are moving to a space though of having, so my LOA is almost done with his training. And so as an LOA, he's going to be start taking over more of like that processing stuff where like he's going to be asking for documents. And so in that space, he would have contact with our borrowers. That is something that you need to feel out with your loan officer, or you as a loan officer, right? Is if I'm going to allow somebody else to speak to my clients, under what circumstances, and then how am I going to do that introduction so my borrower doesn't feel like they're being handed off, right? I share this experience a lot. I was referring, so I've always been a consumer front-facing person. Like I have the borrower and I refer to agents. I haven't run a model where it's the other way around in a long time. So I remember pre-qualifying a couple and then sending them to an agent and giving the whole spiel, their qualification, copy of their approval letter. And I got a call about a day or two later, and the borrower was like, yeah, we went and looked at houses with Pam. Pam. And I was like, Pam? Who's Pam? I referred you to Jane, right? But I didn't even, the referral partner didn't have the forethought, let's just say the forethought or the foresight, to let me know that they had grown their team and brought in a buyer's agent. I didn't refer Pam. I don't know Pam. Have never met Pam, never talked to Pam, have not had the opportunity to discuss like my expectations in my referrals that go to Jane, right? And so in that moment, I knew that I had to address, as I grew, how I was going to incorporate my support staff into introducing to my clients as I grew. So what we do is, once I have a conversation with somebody and I'm issuing them a pre-approval letter, when I send the pre-approval letter, it's also like a welcome email. We use SharePoint in OneDrive, and we send the borrower a folder for them to upload their documents in the initial, like some of you would call it a welcome email. We list out the documents that we would like for them to upload for the initial underwrite. But at that time, I also introduce the processor that's going to work on their file. So I let them know I've included Isabel or Tyler or Skylar on this email. They're going to be the processor working on your file. They will also have access to your documents, and their job is to assist us in getting your documents into the underwriting system. Okay, so I've introduced them. I've let the people know that the processor will also have access to their information, and I also let them know what their job function is. Sometimes I tailor that email if I've talked to the borrower enough that there's some additional information that needs to be discussed, or like, you know, maybe they're going to go on vacation, or maybe so like today is a really busy day for me. I had a test scheduled this morning. I had a sales call on AIM, and then I'm doing this, and then I have another, right? So in days like today, sometimes like on the letters that I sent last night and or first thing this morning, I said, hey, I'm going to be relatively unavailable today. So if you have an immediate need, please reach out to your processor, Tyler, and he can probably advise or let me know as soon as I'm out of my appointments, what your questions might be. I introduce them as an additional point of contact if I know that I'm not going to be available because of appointments or because of, you know, maybe, okay, so like nobody's going on vacation now. Maybe some people are, but like we're not. But thinking back into the day when we would go on vacation, that would have been a great opportunity to say, hey, introducing my team. Now, for those of you that are in here, and those of you that will watch this down the road, I want to say to you that the stuff that I'm telling you, I know that it works. I know that it works because it's born on the back of my failures. I have made these mistakes. I have had dings to my reputation, and I have drowned in volume. So take what you can, take what you need in order to build yourself up and do reinforcements, which I'm going to tell you in a second, and know that it works because it's coming from a place of like things that I didn't do right, or things I didn't know, or things that I learned later. If you are not listening to Anthony Casa, Matt Ishbia, Barry Habib, Logan, you need to, because everything that I am doing has come from a place of listening to the people who are our leaders and have access to information that I don't have access to. So the communication, and I'm telling you this now with the intention of showing you the way, the direction is to hire, bring people in and train them up. Our industry does not have enough people in it. Anthony Casa said it earlier this week. It's something that I've known since I was a processor, even 5 years ago when I was at the tail end of my processing company. I was in high demand. 5 years ago, I was making $695 a file. I was really more of an LOA. Okay, so that was 5 years ago. I was making almost $700 a file, and they were happy to pay it. So if you are, well, and this question came up a few weeks ago, and somebody said, why do you hire in instead of outsourcing processing? Here's the thing. As someone who owned a processing company, it's my company. It is my LLC. It is my license. It is my bond. It is my insurance. It is a service that I offer to loan originators and brokers. You don't get to come in and tell me how to run my business. You don't. You subscribe to my service. because you like the way that I do things, but you don't get to come into my house and tell me how to run it. It's my business, okay? If you don't like the way that I run the processing company, then you can elect to not use my processing company and go somewhere else, okay? I chose to hire my people that I have now, because like many of you, I tried to outsource, and it wasn't that the people that I outsourced to weren't great at what they did. It was that I was a little bougie about my process, and I wanted my stuff done my way, the way that I ran my structure, my system, my process. And they couldn't fulfill that because that's not their job. Their job is to perform the tasks of processing. So the reason that I bring my people in, and I did have to take a pay cut. I have to take a pay cut to leave it into the company to pay for the processors, but I can do way more volume now that I have these 3 people on board. And so I choose to hire people as W-2 because then they're my employees and they have to do it the way I want it, in the process, the way I've got it set it up, in my routine, in the structure that works for me, in the way that I'm set up. And that's the difference. Okay, so you have to make a choice for your business model. If you hire out, that's your choice. Okay, that's your choice. But you have to understand, like I use this example a lot. If you're getting your house painted, you wouldn't hire a painter and then tell them how to paint your house. Like you hire them because they're a painter and they know what they're doing, right? But you can't like be like, I really want you to paint the garage first, and then if you could do the front side of the house and then the back side of the house and then just do the trim last. Like you can't do that. Like you can hire someone who says, we'll do it any way you want, right? But most professionals are going to say, hey, this is the proven system that works. This is how we do it. This is our fee. You either want us to do it or you don't. Okay, so that's how. So for those of you who are feeling the burden of volume, here's my advice. So hold on a second. I got to write this one more thing. And I'm sorry if it's backwards today. Okay. Okay, so you have the application, registration, submission, underwriting. Here's where you go back and forth a couple of times, and then you have closing, okay? So you're going to, if you don't already have a bottleneck at one of these spots. Right now, our bottleneck is here in submissions. And then we are starting to form a bottleneck here on conditions. So what you have to do is you have to put reinforcements one layer up. So right now we're having a bottleneck at submissions because we have so many leads, okay? So what we're doing is my main processor is getting kind of realigned. She's going to be giving up some of her processing functions. She's now going to be registered. So on the loans that I take, on the applications I take, I'm going to structure them and run AUS, and I'm going to tell her where they go. She is going to now register them and submit them. She is going to offload, so here, she is going to offload the title, insurance, and BOE work to our junior processor now, okay? So that is going to help in this bottleneck. Now we've got another bottleneck here, right, at underwriting, which means we got a file back and we're not getting conditions back in like what we want, 24, 48 hours, depending on, you know, sometimes you can't make an employer give you a BOE in 2 days. So we're starting to see a bottleneck in my company right here getting submissions back. So what we're doing is we're moving, well, my LOA is training, and he's doing a lot of processing work, but what we're going to do is we're going to start putting him here where he's going to be dealing with approvals, and he is going to be, we're transitioning to where he's going to then be sending a needs list to the borrower based on approvals, and then communicating with our junior processor if there's any items within that title, insurance, BOE area that need to be completed, okay? So we're basically putting a reinforcement in here after submission or when we get the approval back so that we can get these back and forth faster, okay? So some people get clear to close and then they can't get their figures balanced and they can't put all the, you know, some lenders have a document request in. So you might need to hire a closer. So you might be stuck up here taking more applications and have to choose between this and this, right? If you're choosing between closing and applications, you're still on this roller coaster. And I've talked about it a few times, right? So we get a lot of apps in, we close a lot of loans, and then, you know, as we're closing a lot of loans, right? And then we're like, oh crud, I don't have any apps in, so then I got to go get apps. You want to get reinforcements so you can flatten the curve, and you all know what that means now. Okay, so you want to flatten the curve by getting reinforcements. Now, I feel like I'm lecturing you guys today. I love you. I want you to succeed. I'm sorry if it feels lecturing. As an LOA, as an LO who self-processes, or as an advanced processor. Listen, if you're an advanced processor, you seriously need to think about getting your license and opening a processing company. But the best way to transition into reinforcements is hiring a junior processor. Let me explain. A junior processor, I've said before, is a specialized admin. Okay, so they are an admin assistant who handles non-public or handles public information, stuff that you can find on the internet without paying for it, right? That's public information about any borrower. And they fulfill paperwork tasks as they pertain to the mortgage industry. Okay, so you can subcontract that out. I train people, if you're going to be a junior processor, open an LLC, become a virtual assistant specializing in the mortgage industry. Become a junior processor. You can get paid, I don't know, like $100 a file to order title work, order insurance, and get VOEs. So when I had talked to a broker about this, they were like, yeah, but that stuff takes like 2 minutes. Yes, it does. But you know it doesn't take 2 minutes? Reviewing the mortgagee clause when it comes back, asking 3 times for the CPL and the wire instructions, making sure you have the O&E insurance, and revising the loan amount when your borrower decides they don't want to bring that much cash to close. You increase the loan amount, but now you need to go and get updated title insurance for the loan, right? That's the stuff, like putting the order in isn't the issue, okay? That is a repeatable, predictable process. But 2 things happen. Number 1, your junior processor gets comfortable learning this repeatable function task. It doesn't change. The only thing that changes is the borrower information and the title company. You teach them how to find that information, right? The other thing that happens is we work in mortgage, which is based on risk. Say, a lot of the times when we come across people such as myself who has a hard time handing files over, it's not because I don't want to hand it over. It's because I know the risk that if certain things don't get done, I know what happens about that. You are not going to tank a deal if title work doesn't get ordered in the first week. Okay, you're not going to have a deal tank if insurance doesn't get ordered in the first week. Your deal isn't going to tank if you don't get your VOE back the first week. Your deal might tank if it's not submitted for a week. Might not tank, but you're certainly probably not closing on time unless you're doing it at UWM. Okay, you don't get certain things done in that first week, it's not going to happen within the contracted date or within the expectation you set for the borrower. So the best thing to do is hire a junior processor to take over those things. Where it becomes a challenge is you as a loan officer assistant, or advanced processor have a process that is repeatable and is successful, okay? You now have to pivot by taking something out of that process, giving it to somebody else, which means you have to restructure or realign your process. Okay, so maybe in your process right now, it looks, so I'll tell you how we did it. So when I first brought my processor in, I took the application, I registered the file, I put the loan number and the title company in Calyx. I printed the forms, we call them an RFT and an RFI, request for title, request for insurance. I printed those and put them in the file. Then I emailed the processor and said, the Jones file is ready for title and insurance. The RFT and RFI are in the file and ready for you to process, okay? My processor knows that when they're doing VOE, they need to go into Calyx, look at the employer, call, and ask the question, hi, my name is Isabel. I work at Next Generation Home Loans. I'm currently working with one of your employees on a mortgage loan, and we need to do a verification of employment and income. Can you tell me who does that in your company? Okay, and she handles that. I have very specific timelines. Title work's 2 days, insurance is 2 days, VOEs is no more than 72 hours, meaning that if you don't have those documents back within that time frame, your job is to get on the phone and find out where they are, okay? Not an email, not an email, okay? It's It's a phone call to them about where those items are. Okay. If on that phone call, they're told you'll have it by end of business today or you'll have it by tomorrow. If on the second request, right? So the first is the initial, the second is, hey, we don't have it, what's the ETA? If my staff does not get it on the second time, they are to let me know. At that time, I send an email and say, hey, this is Jackie. I'm the broker owner at Next Generation Home Loans. I'm inquiring about an ETA on this file. It looks like our initial request wasn't fulfilled. We had a call to find out when it would be. It was supposed to be in yesterday. Can you get me an ETA on this? Okay, so that's how we handle it in our company. So you need to figure out for your timelines, if you're going to bring support staff in, what are your timelines? What do you want them to do? So hiring a junior processor, you can grow them in the business. They don't need to have mortgage industry experience to place an order. It might be a little bit of work on the front side for you, but it is well worth it. Okay. The other thing that we do to bring in reinforcements, and like what I did, you guys, I failed. I tried 3 times to bring people in. I waited until, like many of you are right now, until like I was working 15 hours a day and wasn't able to take the weekends off or take some time off. I was really super stressed out. So I waited. But what happens is that you don't, in order to train someone, you're going to have to take your thumb off your pipeline. You're going to have to take your thumb off your process. And there becomes this tug of war of, but if I take the time to stop what I'm doing to show you how to do this, I might as well do it myself. I get that. I completely understand that. But it is the wrong thought process. Okay. So the thing that we're doing moving forward, and I say we because my husband is helping me because he's my tech guy. His shirt says so. We are offering 2 things. So number 1 is a true legitimate like processor training course, but then we are also offering ongoing mentorship and small group training so that when the processors or junior processors that you bring in have questions, they have an additional resource in me and my staff that doesn't require you to take the thumb off of what you're doing. Okay. And implementing the training that we have on YouTube and that we will continue to do in the processor training class. So I hope that's helpful for you. I think those of you that are doing advanced processing in LOAs, you have a real opportunity right now to expand and grow your business in a way that has not been seen in many, many years in our industry. If you would like help in structuring something like that, please feel free to send me an email or a DM. If I have enough interest, I may just do like a small group Zoom call, but otherwise I'm just scheduling like 20 or 30-minute calls and helping brokers and LOs and LOAs figure out how to reinforce their workflow based on their specific workflow. So not handing you a chart and saying, here, figure it out. I'm specifically asking you, walk me through how you do this. Where's your bottleneck? And then we brainstorm together how you can put reinforcements into your pipeline to help open that bottleneck up and open your workflow back up. Okay. All right. So we have about 15 minutes left. If there are any questions, oh, shoot. There was just one and I accidentally swiped it away. Hold on. Let me see if I can get to it again really quick. If there are any questions, you can unmute and ask, or you can type them in the comment or chat box. And we're just about finishing. I know a couple of you just jumped on. Don't worry about it. The live will post like in a day or 2. So you can rewatch this. And then I know it'll register your email, which is what I asked. So that way when we send the email out, I think it's going to go out Saturday for the upcoming training that's going to be starting in the next week. Okay, so we're going to be offering a processor training, and then we're going to be offering a small group mentoring for those that are like already foot in the door, but maybe still want a little bit more guidance and help on specific tasks. And if you are hiring somebody, please know that it is not my intention or my job to tell you how you should structure. I will always tell the people in my class, you need to check in with your broker, you need to check in with your LOA. Here's how you do the task. Where they want you to do it, you need to check in. Here's how we do it. Here's how we perform it. Here's the system we use. You may not be using the same system. So I will always refer them back because that's what I would want someone training my staff to do. And in case there's a little lag, I'm just going to hold tight for a minute for any questions. Otherwise, that is it for today. I want to thank you all so much for supporting this endeavor. When is the next training? Okay, Steve. Today is the last live training. So you've got two options. Go back through my YouTube channel. All the most of the trainings I've done in the past are on YouTube. We are going to be starting an official processor training in the next week, and small group mentoring. So if you like this format, small group, talking about specific hot topics, specific things that are going in, you'll want to go find our Facebook page called The Mortgage Calculator, get acquainted there. But since you're registered here, you'll get emails with all the information. But today is the last Zoom call. I've been doing this for about 8 or 9 weeks. So there's tons and tons of videos on YouTube that you are welcome to watch at no charge. There was another question that popped up and I swiped it away. If you just posted a question and I didn't answer it, will you please repost it? I don't know if I deleted it, but I cannot find it now. And I don't really know how to work Zoom on the phone, so I can't really get back to it either. Oh, here it is. Let's see. Oh, now it's unmuted. Well, if you posted a question, I didn't answer it. Will you please post it? Because I swiped it away and I don't know how to find it now. Hopefully that'll give you great confidence in our trainings. Okay. So I'm just going to hang tight for a minute in case there's any other questions, but otherwise that is it for today. I wish you all the appraisal waivers because they make loans so simple, and I wish you the best of luck in this growing environment.